Testing, testing. William, what's up, my man? Happy Sunday. What up? How are you doing, man? You're the first one to join. We'll get started in a bit, but I hope you're doing well, man. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. All is good. Just learning, sharing information, hopefully helping others. That's what we do, right? But thank you for joining. Looks like we got people joining. Hope everyone is doing well. Happy Sunday. It is 2:47 p.m. Just got back home. Thanks everyone for your patience. We got a lot to cover, but we'll go ahead and give it another minute or so before we begin. I'd love to hear from everyone, so just put it in the chat where you all are watching from and your name. That was very kind words of you, William. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. Yeah, so it was nice. Last week, got to 10,000 subscribers. Finally, it's been a nice achievement getting to that level. Definitely a great opportunity for more. Jay Douglas, thank you for joining, man. SoCal. Which part of SoCal are you from? KSCP. William, thank you for that. I'll pull that up. We'll take a look at it. Always trying to learn. Always trying to learn. Night School. There we go. Ooh, looks really good. All right. Well, Temecula. Nice, nice. All right. I'm up here in Santa Clara, so we're about 6 hours away. New York City, Brooklyn is where William is from. That's cool, man. Where else is everyone from? We got William from New York. We got Jay from Temecula, California. We'll go through that, William. Sounds like it's a low float stock. I did see the price run up. Definitely some huge upside there. But welcome, everyone. We got a lot to cover. Yeah, just Bitcoin's doing very well. Oh, hi, John. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. You and all your comments. Thank you for all the continued support. We got John from Augustine, Florida. We got Martin joining from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have a lot of East Coasters. Yeah, it's evening time over there. Right now it's 2:49 in California. But thank you guys. I appreciate you all. Just spending time to go through this live stream. Any questions, comments, requests, please put it in the chat. We'll go through all of it. So John joining, Steve Giles joining from Seattle. That's cool, man. All the returning folks who usually comment on the channel. I really appreciate it. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So, we heard a lot of good news. We heard a lot about the Genius Bill getting signed into law. That really puts the crypto environment in a time frame where things have really changed. We're really getting to that level of digital currency. It's not going away, like what Lynn Alden says. the train doesn't stop. I mean, the fiat continues to get weaker, the dollar gets weaker, but the crypto market is here to stay. And thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. Thank you all for joining. We'll go ahead and get started. I will continue to monitor the chat. Any questions you all have, requests, put it in the chat. We'll go through all of that. But right now, I'm going to go through some of the updates I'd like to share with you all. So, the market's like bullish right now. We're beginning to see altcoins have a nice run up as well. I mean, look at the trending coins right now. We got ETH soon to get to like 4,000. I really do think that, we're going to get over 4,000 ETH price coming up very soon. Bitcoin at 118,000. When is the next breakout? Solana is making some nice moves as well. It's currently at $182. So once we see ETH breaking out, we're going to see like altcoins, really take off, like Doge and all that. We got Ray joining MSTR, Solana. Yes, we'll cover all of that. But welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. All right, just to go through some of the updates I'd like to share with you. So, Trump, he's a big advocate for Bitcoin and crypto. He's preparing to open up the $9 trillion US retirement market to Bitcoin and crypto investments. Think about, everyone's 401ks. Let's say if you're not like, if you're not like financially free right now where you work, 401ks can potentially start tapping into like a broad pool of alternative assets. That's impressive, right? And think about, Truth Media, Social, DJT Stock. I mean, they're opening up an ETF with basket full of crypto like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. So at one point, you can actually start buying. In fact, you can buy several ETFs now that have like Bitcoin or crypto. So you got, IBIT, which is, doing very well by BlackRock. That holds on to like, 700,000 Bitcoins. There's other, different ETFs out there, even Ethereum related ETFs. But this really puts a shift towards how we view the crypto environment, and it's only going to get better from here on out. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this live stream. We have a lot to cover. I'd love to just share with you some of the things I've gathered. So, think about this. Trump has about 9% of his net worth now in crypto. Just put that into perspective. He is a firm believer of Bitcoin and crypto. In fact, his kids, even at the Bitcoin conference, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., they were speakers. They were talking about how they've been a firm believer of Bitcoin for who knows, but then they started even investing into like Hut 8, American Bitcoin company. So really supporting the ecosystem for the Bitcoin environment. What does this mean? Digital currency is here to stay. And the government is enacting, stable coins. Think about that. Eventually the dollar is going to get replaced by, cryptocurrency. We know that's coming. So just be on the lookout. Things are going to be really, really good. All right, so let's continue. So, all right, so Trump, he also says that Bitcoin will overtake gold's market cap one day. So currently, gold is around $22 trillion. Bitcoin is, working its way up towards $3 trillion. We've heard from, Senator Cynthia Lummis, Bitcoin is going to go $200 trillion at one point. So it's going to super bypass all of the Mag 7 companies, even gold. It's going to be coming, guys. There's a lot of upside. All right. So Coinvol also posts that Ethereum breakout could send it straight to 7,000. So we see this, this big drop off. A lot of people were hitting on ETH, right around May, June timeframe. And then what happened? It got down to 1,300 and then it just shot up. I mean, look at the last 7 days of ETH, almost 30% gains. Think about all of the Ethereum treasury companies that have been converting. We'll cover like Bit Digital. Most of you are wondering, what about the other plays like the company that Tom Lee is working with now with, uh, with BMNR, SBET, all of that. So we'll cover all those updates as well as me sharing with you some hot hidden gem plays as well. All right, so let's continue. So for all the MSTR holders like myself, Chris Millis, he has this beautiful visual. Strategy now satisfies all S&P 500 index inclusion criteria. We know that July 31st is when Q2 earnings report is going to be announced. And look at this, all of the check marks have, been checked off. So think about this. I mean, the sum of the business earnings in the previous 4 quarters must be positive. That's a check. Why? Because ever since Trump became president, he changed the whole entire accounting infrastructure. Now you got FASB accounting where you actually price in the fair value of Bitcoin at the end of every quarter. What happened during Q2? Price of Bitcoin went from like Q1 75,000 to like over 100,000. Think about all of the Bitcoin that strategy has. That all reflects as net income. So all that unrealized gains in the billions, that's all going to be reflected. And we've seen what happened when Coinbase joined S&P 500 a couple months ago. Things started front running, and it could be very similar with Robinhood as well. But there's no reason for MSTR not to be added to the S&P 500. So it's going to be very, very bullish. All right, so it looks like we got more folks joining. It looks like Jerry Mackey joining, Andreas with questions, Christian with questions. All right, so any good actual cloud miners who pay? And then Christian, what about RIOT and HUT? Yes, we will cover all that, so just hold on tight. We will get to all that information. So let's take a look at this post. So Michael Saylor's strategy Bitcoin ranks 9th among all S&P 500 companies. Think about when Bitcoin goes to 200K, where will strategy land up? I think that it's going to be like right behind Berkshire Hathaway. In fact, Bitcoin has already bypassed, Amazon and Google in terms of market cap. The fact that strategy has 3% of the entire asset for Bitcoin, strategy is eventually going to be the number one company. Its market cap will continue to grow. Right now, they'll just quietly, continually buy Bitcoin where they can, convert all of that fiat to buy Bitcoin. But this is very bullish. All of these companies ahead of strategy, they can't even, use the amount of money they have to buy Bitcoin. They won't dare do that either. The strategy knows that they have that laser sharp focus. They will continue to be a Bitcoin dominant company. And at one point, by taking this risk, they will be the strongest company in the future. Micro to macro. So here's an interesting post. Over the next 1-2 months, I wouldn't miss MetaPlanet. So I actually started buying MetaPlanet as well. I really like the price stability with MetaPlanet. Again, do your own research. When it comes to investing, you gotta know why you're invested into something, and just like follow what others are saying. Of course, you can see what others are saying, but then do your research, understand why you want to invest in something. And when you do invest into something, know what your exit strategy is, understand where the money flows are going, and is this going to be an investment that's calculated in the sense that there's upside potential. But I really do think that MetaPlanet is really going to take off. We'll go through the technicals as well. And just recently, they've been buying a lot of Bitcoin now, over 16,000 Bitcoins on their balance sheet. I mean, they're ranked 5 right now when it comes to total HODL of Bitcoin. All right, so it looks like we got a lot of people joining, and Katie joining. I was wondering where you were. Thank you for joining. So Katie, I invest to make money. Yes, so definitely. We all have that same mindset. I mean, we invest for time and money to free up so we can live a better life. I mean, that's basically what we're all hoping to do. But let's all win together, and celebrate together. But here's an interesting post from Chris. I guess I never realized until now that Riot might have, daily setup back to $20 plus. I mean, look at this. Back in March, April, everyone was like hopeless during that time. It was a bad beating from like last year to like this year until we got through the tariff talks. We started seeing miners actually wake up, and it's still waking up. And I think that there's going to be so much upside that's to come. Calio, he's a big time, investor as well. He's really big on Riot. He has like many call options going through January 2026 as well. And he has calls of like $35, $30. He's saying that, held these Riot calls through the lows, have a feeling that they'll hit seven figures soon enough, patient pays. And he's actually saying that Riot is going to have a AMC GameStop run up to potentially $100 plus. Think about that. This guy has a big fan base. I mean, he's actually made 30,000 turn into like $10 million within like a couple hours. So he knows what he's doing. He has a big base, and a lot of people are following him with what he's saying here. So be on the lookout for Riot. Chris posts about CleanSpark. So he has a big time conviction of CleanSpark, saying that it can double in the next several months. Clean DTL breakout, retest, and now sending back above the daily cloud. The $16, $17 early November 2024 highs could be the first zone of temporary resistance, but through that, it's going to $25. Soon, we're going to have that golden cross alert as well. What does golden cross mean? Think of that as the 50-day, moving average of the price, crossing the 200-day moving average of the price. So the moment you have that golden cross, that's a good indicator for price to continue to move up, which represents bullish activity. So, where Chris has this drawn out is, CleanSpark in this year, sometime in it looks like August, September, we may very well have CleanSpark run up to $26 to $29. I mean, just think about that. All right, so we got Mike, posting about Ethereum, thoughts on CoreWeave and their acquisition of Core Scientific. Yeah, CoreWeave's a beast. And with, Core Scientific, I mean, the share price ran up to like 16, 17, took a slight pullback. I think it's consolidating right now, but I really do think that Core Scientific might have a nice, healthy run up, maybe starting next week onward. Here's an interesting take. Mara new institutional ownership data point shows institutions are buying and buying. So what is this telling us? While prices continue to drop back, during last year, along with like Q1 of this year, institutions continue to buy. They understand, continue to buy, dollar cost average down, because retail is going to be the first one that gets shaken out, and financial institutions will dominate. And that's what they're doing. They just keep hodling all these stocks, at discounted prices. And then when the market makers, reverse everything, where they send up the price, that's when financial institutions make the biggest amount of money. All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. It looks like we have more people. Put it in the comments. What's your questions, what your requests are. We will definitely cover all of that. All right, so Bit Digital. So most of you know about BTBT. Interesting thing with Bit Digital is they actually are a Bitcoin miner, and they actually had Bitcoin on their balance sheet. What they did was they sold off all their Bitcoin, and Sam Tabar, the CEO, decided to shift its focus towards holding on to Ethereum. So now they have over 100,000 Ethereum, and just 2 days ago they bought close to 20,000 Ethereum, now with the total Ethereum balance of 120,000. But just think about it, the last 7 days Ethereum went up by like 30%. So ever since BTBT converted itself like about 2 weeks ago, I mean, their overall treasury has gone up because of just the transition to Ethereum at the right time. So they're making big bucks, and I think that things are looking very good. All right, so here's a hidden gem play I want to share with you. Most of you are wondering what's going to be the next hot play. What's the next hot Palantir play? What's the next hot SoFi play? I really do think GLXY, Galaxy Digital, is going to be the next up and coming stock. We hear a lot about the Genius Act bill getting signed into law. So this really opens up the door for crypto related companies. Galaxy has around 40 something thousand Bitcoin. They also have AI, HPC data centers, and they have a partnership with CoreWeave as well. The share price has been going up. I think it's in the high 20s right now, but I really do feel like GLXY is going to be like the next Robin Hood, where the price is just going to run up to $100. So if you're looking for a high quality, crypto stock, take a look at Galaxy Digital, at least monitor it. I'm considering, opening up some options tomorrow on GLXY, but I just want to share it with you all. I just wanted to thank my friend Nat for sharing that play with me as well. All right, so Mike, in terms of CoreWeave, this is the stock right here that works with CoreWeave, Galaxy Digital. So just know that. Katie, do you know if CleanSpark earnings is August 7th before or after? So I actually don't know the date as to when that's going to be happening, but my guess is it's going to be after the bell closing, similar to Q1 results when CleanSpark announced it after the market closure. That's my take, but I really do think that the miners, along with like strategy with the earnings report, things are going to look very favorable because of Bitcoin price going up. So Mike George, so why would you sell the best asset in the world to buy a lesser quality asset? So Mike, that's a great question. You bring up a great point, right? Because Bitcoin is the mother coin. But when you think about competition, when you look at the HODL 15, there's like not even hundreds of companies. You got thousands of companies. But if let's say you're like ranked 95, most likely you're not going to have the best return on investment, right? But like let's say if you shift gears and you get into like an asset that just opened up, similar to Tom Lee, he just became the new Michael Saylor under this new asset class. So the upside return is substantial. Rate of return is very favorable as well. So that doesn't mean that they can't buy Bitcoin, but they're just shifting the focus as the second asset class. Ethereum is a very dominant asset as well. But I agree with you. Bitcoin is the best asset out there. Um, but like with William, what he's saying is it's a leverage play on Bitcoin. That's indeed very true. All right, so be on the lookout with GLXY. I think things are going to pop with this company over time. Here's another stock I want to share with you all. I would not sleep on this. I actually bought some stocks of Origin. I bought it on Thursday. I bought it on Friday. Why do I like BTOG? They're the very first company that's buying up Dogecoin. They're the first Dogecoin treasury company out there based out in Singapore. We're seeing Dogecoin climb, right? I mean, just look at Dogecoin, the last 7 days, 36%, getting close to 27 cents. 30 cents is not too far away, but any rocket launch with Dogecoin, I'm going to tell you that BTOG is going to have a field day. I mean, current price is around high 70 cents. I really do see that there's going to be major upside, low float, high volume. There's been a lot more activity going on investor interest. But just be on the lookout because Dogecoin is running, but Origin, they're raising $500 million to buy Dogecoin as their treasury. First ever company to do that. All right. So William is saying if Bitcoin does 2x, miners and hodler cap can do 3x. That's true. In fact, potentially even more, William. That's my best guess. All right. So let's go through. Yeah. So JG is in the house as well. What's going on, JG? Thank you for joining. Yeah, I think the Doge is out. With Doge running, I would just recommend monitoring BTOG. You will see that puppy start running very soon as well. So definitely opportunity upside out on that. But Bitcoin right now is it's hovering. It's up at 118,000. This is good. I'd rather have Bitcoin hover around 118,000, and then as the markets begin to open tomorrow, then it goes up above 120,000. You have to go up to 120,000 now. By the time we open up, it'll probably go back down. So I like that it's staying steady right now, and the RSI is in the stable 66. It had its 9 to 26 moving average cross. I really do think that we're going to have really nice gains. It's going to look favorable as we head into August, where Bitcoin can break out to like 135, 140,000. So just be on the lookout for this. All right. So, yep, William, you got to change that use case. I think there's going to be more for the miners. But this is looking very good. I mean, look at this. Bitcoin over 100,000. We got to 123,000, but look, it's holding up. It didn't go down as much. I think this is a key signal that shows the strength of Bitcoin, and this is all because of the macro news. The government support, Trump, loading up on cryptocurrency. There's ETFs created, altcoins are beginning to run, Ethereum's beginning to run. There's just so much upside right now. All right, so let's start going through some technical analysis I prepared. And again, if there's any stocks you want me to cover, we'll go through it. But MSTR, what are we seeing? A beautiful cup and handle formation, textbook play. In fact, you see like a inverse head and shoulder as well, left shoulder, the head formation, right shoulder. We're going to see that next leg up. Question is, when is this going to happen? I'm forecasting. I may not be like laser sharp correct, but I really do think that, with Q2 earnings coming up in July 31st, we may have the price front run before July 31st and after. Once we get that news, I think things are going to like drive up in terms of the price. My best prediction for strategy is we're going to have it land somewhere around that $1,000 sweet spot by 2025 is my best guess. All right, so let's continue. MetaPlanet. So, if there's any MetaPlanet holders, put it in the chat. I am also a MetaPlanet holder, and that was just not too long ago. I mean, I was looking at it when it was like at $3. I was too late to buy, but you know what? I took advantage after seeing consolidation for like 2 months. So it got price discovery, and then it created a support around that, $11 to $9. It's only going to be a matter of time where we're going to have MetaPlanet reach its prior resistance, break into $17. And as we head into 2025 with Bitcoin price breaking out to 200K, $30 is going to be the next step up after we get to this near-term resistance barrier. But overall, we see the bearish convergence. We see relative strength, slowly going down. That's good. Currently at 41. If you like what MetaPlanet's doing, I like the CEO. He's really, ramping up the Bitcoin purchases, and they're top 5 right now in terms of Bitcoin HODL. So lots to come with this Japanese-based company. All right, so next up, one moment, I'm just going to get a water. All right, thank you. I was a little bit dehydrated there. All right, so next up, we got RIOT Platform. Some of you are investors of RIOT. We're looking at RIOT on the monthly candle. 2021, we had a nice run up. I mean, during COVID time, it went from $3 to 81. We keep talking about that. But ever since then, it's been dormant. The relative strength market makers just shut down RIOT for this long. Price has been just consolidating in this bull flag channel for years. And it was until recently where the price action broke out of this bull flag. I mean, on Friday when Bitcoin was correcting, RIOT actually ended, in green. But this has been a long time, window where the price activity kept getting rejected. It just broke through the bull flag. That's a key signal for a potential big run up coming soon. And market makers, they can control this. And if they want to send it up, they can easily do so. But I think in the near term, we may very well be climbing up to new levels. I think in the next couple of weeks, $20 is going to be coming up very soon. Let's take a look at. All right, so JP, thank you for joining, my man. I really appreciate you joining, JP. Daniel, timing the market versus time in the market is key. But would selling CleanSpark at $26, $30 per share be a mistake? So that's a great question, Daniel. So that it's one of the human things that we all get stuck on, right? Like trying to time the market. And again, sometimes you can accurately time the market, but most cases you might not always be correct. But time in the market's always going to be best because you can't predict the future, right? That's why sometimes it's just good to hold on to something, time in the market, because once a stock shoots up, you're able to ride that wave up. So timing the market, you don't have to worry about that, and then try to catch that wave when it's already shooting up. When, let's say, you're already investing in something, then you ride that wave up from the beginning. So as for price targets, we'll go through that shortly after we finish Mara, Daniel, as far as the price forecast. All right, so then just with Mara, man, just look at this. I mean, it's just trending up. We're seeing it ascend up after that big sell-off of price getting to $9.80. On the monthly candle, we're going to start seeing some green histograms forming. I think that in the next couple of days, weeks, as we head into August, we're going to see maybe next week we might break through $25. And then as we head into August, Mara is going to be $30 again, is my prediction. And all dependent on market makers. We know how big Mara is in terms of their balance sheet with Bitcoin, 50,000 Bitcoins. They may very well just have a big short squeeze as well. So it's been a long time since Mara has had a big time run up. So definitely be on the lookout for Mara. All right, so JP, let's go to JP's question. What happened to MSTR on Friday? Why did it take a huge dump? So I think, okay, so that's a great question. So MSTR had a pullback of 6%. This actually correlated with Bitcoin. There was a lot of uncertainty going on Friday. We had Ethereum, treasury companies taking a pullback with SBET, having a 20% pullback, Strategy having a 6% pullback, while Bitcoin dropped by 2.2%. Strategy had a pullback. But one of the things I think was going on was that there was heavy resistance around that 450 barrier. But I think this is what's happening in that market makers are trying to shake out all of the retails and really just trying to scare people with strategy right before the Q2 earnings report. As we head into next week, I really do think that strategy is going to start climbing up as we get closer towards that July 31st timeframe. So I think it's just a sudden hiccup just to create some fear, uncertainty, along with call options expiring during that time. But definitely, I think starting next week, strategy is going to have a nice bounce back. I remember a couple of weeks ago when strategy dropped, significantly, like by 11%, and then the next day it bounced back even further. So it's just going to have one of those moments where it'll have a nice, healthy bounce back. All right, so next up, CleanSpark. I know there's a lot of investors here who are in CleanSpark, including myself. I'm a firm believer of CleanSpark. I really like what they're doing. At the Bitcoin conference, CleanSpark they were like treating, everyone at the Bitcoin conference with like, lots of love. I really like that spirit from CleanSpark. And I really do think that CleanSpark is going to be very dominant as well. I mean, they're ramping up hash rate. Their fleet efficiency is like top notch level. I mean, Iron is like in front of them just just by a little bit, with their, cost to mine, but their hash rate is like way better. You look at the technicals though, we're seeing that 12 to 26 MACD crossing coming up very soon. In fact, if you scale it out to the daily, weekly, you'll see the bullish divergence. But on the monthly, we're going to see that reversal kick in to gears where we will see green histograms. Relative strength is in that nice stable region. But you see here higher lows established. I think starting in the next 2 weeks, we may have CleanSpark climb up to like the high 18s. I think as we head into August, we're going to have price of CleanSpark get somewhere around $23 on the near term. So I know there is questions from Daniel as to whether it would be a good idea to sell at $26 or $30. Never feel shameful of taking profits. Anytime when you take profits, it's better that you're in the money than losing money, right? But then let's say if CleanSpark shoots up even more, I wouldn't like kick yourself in the head thinking like, oh, I should have kept it, because that will kill you in this market. As you see a certain stock reach your price level, taking profits is always a key thing. And of course, you could always get back in as well, right? But I think in 2025, I think the sweet spot for CleanSpark, that psychological barrier really does play a role when it comes to like, getting those even numbers. But I really do think that there's potential for CleanSpark to get to like $38 is my, forecast for CleanSpark. All right, so Jerry, I have Bitcoin finishing a head and shoulders with the sharp correction down to 108,000, a huge liquidity grab then to the moon. We will see. So I think Jerry has, he's taking an opposite perspective right now. I think Jerry is hoping for Bitcoin along with the miners to go down. He has some puts created. That's the strategy he's going right now. So either he wins or he loses. So we'll see. But I think to JG's point, yes, last April was the shakeout before the miners train leave the station. And I'm with JG. I really do think that seasonality really was, valid in that the miners really had underperforming year. But overall, nothing stops this train right now, at least for the miners with where they're going. All right, so CleanSpark should be $20 already. Such crap. So Katie, remain patient. because when it comes, the puppy will start shooting up. So just remain patient. All right, so CleanSpark, I think it's in a good position right now. Yes, Friday we saw a pullback, but understand what they're doing. I mean, they got like over 700 Bitcoins mined every month. You know, their Q2 earnings report is going to be like remarkable information, and you know, it could easily create a short squeeze with where we currently are right now. All right, so here is an interesting stock that I've actually bought some leaps on with Bit Digital. I actually, pushed out the leaps to like 2027, but I may very well start, buying more shorter term calls. Bit Digital, you know, they are like one of the Bitcoin or Ethereum treasury companies. They also got White Fiber AI. Sam Tabar is the CEO. I really like what he's doing. He's capitalizing right now. They have over 120,000 Ethereum. Current price is super cheap right now. This is why I like it. And you look at the monthly, we just saw a green candle. I really do think Bit Digital has potential to, on the near term, get to $7. So if you create call options on Bit Digital and it goes up by like, you have a strike of like, strike price of $5, 6 months out. I mean, that's big gains there. But I really do see BTBT, getting to like $7 to $10 to the upside, especially with everything that's going on right now with Ethereum treasury companies. You hear a lot about SBET, BMNR, Game Square, BTCS. I really like Bit Digital because they're proven, and I like the CEO, and they have a big Ethereum stack, not as big as like SBET, but we saw what happened with SBET. I mean, it went from like $8 to $40. When something shoots up that fast, that's a time when you want to buy some puts. I actually bought puts on SBET on Thursday and Friday. Thursday it went down 13%, sold that puts, made some profits. On Friday, I also created intraday puts. It dropped, 20%, made some profits on that. But Bit Digital hasn't really broken out yet, and it really does have potential for it to steadily climb up. So be on the lookout. This is definitely an undervalued play that I would definitely monitor. All right, so here is the hot stock. Let's say if you're looking for the next Palantir, you're looking for the next Robinhood type of play. Here it is, GLXY Galaxy. Yes, it ran up recently from like, $20 to 27. In fact, on Friday it ran up to 30, but then it had a slight pullback. But I think that Galaxy is going to gain more traction right now because of all of the macro news with the um, Genius Act bill getting signed into law. That really makes it favorable for this company. And they also have a big Bitcoin HODL stack. They also partner with CoreWeave. They have data centers all around the world. This is definitely a solid company, a high quality stock, not to ignore. I would recommend just monitoring, seeing how it goes. All right, next up, BTOG. So why do I like BTOG? Well, you look at it, yes, RSI has been relatively high, but you know what? BTOG, very, very low float stock. There's lots of volume activity going on. I really like it right now. There's been a lot of momentum. I really do think that BTOG can be like a $5 stock on the near term. Why? Because they are the very first Dogecoin treasury company to exist. So they got $500 million to spare. They're going to buy, Dogecoin with that. And let's say we look at Dogecoin right now. I mean, the last 7 days, it's been breaking out 36%. Soon enough, it's going to break through 30 cents. I think Monday, tomorrow when we open, we may very well be like 27.50 or 28 cents. Dogecoin is giving a lot of activity right now, and there's a lot more people buying Dogecoin right now. That's going to reflect higher upside with BTOG, where it can just run up. On Thursday, it went up 100%. Friday, it ended by about close to 20%. But it's definitely a low float stock, very cheap, which is why I like it. Not much people know about it. So it could have a very nice run up. So just, follow where the money is. If you want to take, some risk on this, I actually bought BTOG as well. So, do your research, see if you like it. If you do, consider taking a stab at it. All right. So then KSCP is basically what William had shared. I mean, look at this puppy go. So back in April, huge oversold situation, $2. And then it's been just consolidating to like $4. And then ever since July 1st, it's just been catapulting. Key thing is though, the RSI is like at super high point right now at like 80 RSI. So they're like signs a 2-year deal with Palantir. Oh my goodness. Yes, so definitely be on the lookout for KSCP. Anything that's touching Palantir, you know what's to come. Definitely some big upside potential. So thank you, William, for sharing that. 50 million stock offering after hours Friday. Monday should see a big drop. Palantir partnership only 50 million market cap. I would wait for it to bottom before investing. Yeah, so definitely a good point, because just looking at the technicals, that kind of scared me as well when you see the RSI like at 80 plus. But I am going to put that in my phone. I'm going to monitor that, because when there's people recommending certain things, there's a reason for recommending it. So thank William for sharing that play. Wait for that pullback. And let's say if it drops to like, $6 or $5, definitely an opportunity. Who knows? It may not even drop to that level, but just let RSI stabilize at least before considering investing into KSCP. Oh, so Ellen just joined in. Have you talked about BTBT? Oh man, we talked a lot about BTBT. In fact, we just finished BTBT not too long ago. Obviously, we know what's going on with BTBT right now. I do think that, yes, yeah, you can wait, you can monitor, see if it gets to like, 350, buying it, but who knows? It could just shoot up right now. We see Ethereum going up. I think, markets tomorrow, Ethereum at 3,700, BTBT in the pre-market tomorrow. I think it's going to be like up at least 5%. So we're going to start seeing BTBT like start climbing into the $4 range, and it may be difficult to actually get Bit Digital in the high $3. So I do see BTBT as a good opportunity with the current price. It's so cheap right now. Definitely opportunity before the run up to $7 to the upside. So thank you, Alan, for your question there. All right, so that was a handful. I know I talked a lot, but let's see what everyone has in the chat. So what questions or requests does anyone have? As we we look at tomorrow's market. Okay, we're looking at crypto right now. Looks like Bitcoin is taking a slight pullback. Last hour, now it's down to 117,000. Nothing to worry about. Not too worried. It's better that Bitcoin doesn't break out now, because let's say if Bitcoin goes to like 120K, expect how it opens tomorrow. That's what I've been noticing, like with Bitcoin. I'd rather have it be stable during like the weekends, and then when Monday opens, have it shoot up like 30 minutes before. That's when the bulls take action. Okay, so Sword of Valiant. So it's okay. So your videos keep cutting out. Are you referring to the current video right now? Is it cutting out for everyone? D-Rag, good man. Did I miss anything on Riot? What's your thoughts on Riot ending strong on Friday despite Bitcoin not ending well? So, yeah, we can recover that, and Troy will recover MetaPlanet in case you stopped or you haven't heard the updates. Okay, thank you, JP. I really appreciate it. But overall, all in all, I think things are going to look very good for, you know, we'll first start off with the king with the MSTR. I'm big on MSTR. It was painful to see MSTR have a pullback 6%, but look at this puppy. It's priming. It's in this cup and handle formation. I think it's only going to be a matter of time. Next week, I'm thinking that we're going to have a nice, run up with the price, get back to, the high 400s before we start gapping up to the prior resistance and start climbing up to the new levels of 1,000. As for all the RIOT investors, I mean, Crypto Callo, give him a follow. I mean, he's a big time believer of RIOT. He has call options. He's saying that he has a feeling, his calls are going to hit 7 figures soon. He's saying that RIOT is going to have a GME AMC type of squeeze that's going to be coming. It may very well squeeze up to like 100 plus. But look at this on the monthly. We just saw the price action break out of this long, consolidation period. I mean, market makers at any point can just send the price up now. It could just squeeze up, similar to what we saw back in like 5 years ago. So RSI has been just sitting at that low point. The volcano can just erupt at any point in time. All right. So as far as MetaPlanet, I really do think is extremely undervalued as well. Yes, let's say if you missed the boat at $2, $4, that's okay. It's better than buying it at like that prior resistance of $16 during that price discovery phase. We've seen consolidation, the support being established at like $10. In fact, if you can dollar cost average around this time, you know, currently $9 basement. I do think we're going to have a flip the switch on the MACD coming very soon, especially with RSI stabilizing now. So we're going to get to that $17. I think somewhere year 2025, we're going to get to MetaPlanet $30 upside. All right. So thank you for confirming with everyone that the video is going fine. So I hope that answers your question, D-Rag. Troy, I hope that helped. JP, thank you for confirming. And then we have Astromom with more and more companies making treasuries every week. Are you concerned that investor money will have too many places to go? Um, that's a good question. It always comes down to, where you have conviction in, what type of, stock you find to be unique and valuable, and understand why you're investing into certain things, right? Um, I would recommend like diversifying to different, areas, but always try to follow where the money is. Follow the money. Trump is following the money. That's why he's hedging towards crypto right now. You got to do the same, right? Okay. So, JP, what about the big, beautiful bill? How is this going to affect crypto in the near future? So the new crypto bill Trump just passed, what's going on there? So really great question. So from my perspective, I think that really puts potential for the crypto market. That brings confidence. I don't know if everyone joined at the beginning, but look at this. President Trump is preparing to open up the floodgates, $9 trillion US retirement market to Bitcoin and crypto investments. So we know about people who work with 401k plans, but they're mainly all hedged towards like company stocks and all that. But can you imagine if he has an executive order to allow 401k to tap into a broad pool of alternative assets like crypto? That's going to be huge, and that's going to drive up the the crypto markets, it'll become like a $200 trillion asset class. So we already know Trump, he's fully invested in crypto. I mean, 9% of his entire net worth. So that's like $8 billion invested. And he's saying that Bitcoin will overtake gold's market cap one day. So I see nothing but positive news for all of that information that's to come. And with the Genius Act being signed, be on the lookout for GLXY. I wouldn't sleep on Galaxy. They are AI focused with data centers. They have a big Bitcoin HODL. Be on the lookout because this stock might be the next Robinhood type of performance I want to share with you all. Oh, DRAG. Yes. So, okay. So let me just, I'll share with you here on my X. And let's say if you're not following me on X, give me a follow on X. But let me just show DRAG. So you see here, Calio, Crypto Calio. So he's saying RIOT is the next GME AMC 100 plus is a magnet. So look at his drawing right now. So we we have this long consolidation period, and he's drawing it out to like $205. Who knows? The miners can just blast off like Clean Spark Mara, RIOT. But I think he has big, conviction with RIOT right now, and he has like close to 1 million subscribers. So definitely huge upside there. All right, so the detail buff, thank you for joining, man. I appreciate all the comments you share. But thank you for the ongoing support. Thanks for joining on. So we've gone close to about an hour. I usually keep this to like 1 hour. But let's see what Sword of Valiant is saying. So did MSTR issuing more shares recently somewhat cause a drop in price Friday? So I think it was more of the recent technicals. Like MSTR was getting very bullish. If we like look at the I think it was MSTR, climbing up. It had to take a slight pullback, but if you look at the daily, I mean, the RSI started climbing up to like 70, and it just took a slight pullback, especially with Bitcoin price going down. And I think there was a lot of resistance around that 450. So the bulls, weren't able to push the price up because of the correction with Bitcoin at that time. So that's one of the reasons why MSTR had that drop off. But I wouldn't worry. It's just a temporary shakeup. I really do think as we head into next week, things will look much better, along with Q2 earnings coming up. All right, so I hope that this was valuable. Again, thank you all for joining. And if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe, like this live stream, share it with everyone, like your network, your friends. I'd really appreciate that. Anyone that you think can benefit from from the content I'm sharing and putting out there. Share it with a family member or a friend or whoever that may be interested. And again, connect with me on X. I'd love to chat with you all, and we'll do this again next Sunday live stream. And I also released a video today, so take a look at that. But thank you, JG. Thank you all for joining. JP with the great questions, all of the returning folks. Really appreciate you all. I know it's getting late in some of your areas, but you have a great morning, great night, great afternoon. It's a pleasure. All of us are learning from one another, and let's gain on positive proceeds and lead with an altruistic mindset. That's the whole motto of this channel. So thank you guys. We'll talk again soon. Take care.